Welcome, everybody. I'm Steve Lentini, and I'm the host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. This is Season 6, Episode 7. And I'm excited today to share a couple of guests that I think will stimulate some thinking that perhaps you haven't heard before. And all we ask is you keep an open mind and maybe be in awe of what Paul and Morten suggest. And so, with that, I have Morten Nygård and Paul Scoglio as my guests, and they do some work called the 9 Life Energies. And you can correct me later if I'm wrong, because I've gone through it. And then I've been friends with Paul for over 20 years, and we've discussed it from time to time. I often hear him report about it when we meet. We have a peer-to-peer group that's been meeting for quite a while, and it's fascinating to stay in touch with it. And I stay in touch with it myself because I recognize the qualities that they identified in me. They soul typed me. And so that's what we're going to talk about, the 9 life energies and soul typing. So with that, let me introduce both of my guests again, Morten Nygård and Paul Scoglio. So guys, who's going to start?
Well, let me just start with a minor correction.
Yes, I want that.
That is that we don't call it soul typing.
Okay.
The people that taught us called it soul typing.
Right. So I'm remembering it from like 15 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then because we've left their organization, they don't want us to call it that.
Okay.
So we call it life energy.
Yeah.
Identifying your life energy. And it is the energy that holds your body up, the animating energy. And there's 9 different kinds of energy. And you can see it in the way people stand or move or connect to relate, how they use their eyes, how they move their hands when they talk. There's 9 different ways that you can start to see in people.
Mm-hmm. I'm chained. My hands chained to the armrests right now.
Of course.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So I remember that going through the experience back then with you, Paul, and that, you gave me my energy. And what's happened since is I've been following that since you gave me that, what energizes me. And that's what brought me to a lot of the work that I do. So go ahead, guys. Why don't you start with what is it? And then I'm going to ask a question. How did you get into it? And Morten, you might want to give us some background. So you choose the order of that.
It's so nice to be invited into this podcast, Steve, and you're a friend with Paul, and I call him Paulo here in Norway. I'm from Norway, and I have been friends with him for over 20 years too. So he's an amazing person, and he is a life energy 7. And as I understand, you were soul typed, as they called it in the place where we learned it from.
Mm-hmm.
As I call it, a life energy 1.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Life energy 3. So here we are, 3 different people, and of course we are different, but in the source of ourselves, we are also different how we see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is about. It's really about getting into the core of the soul or the life energy, and so we can be authentic, be real, and do our mistakes and do our good things and accept who we really are. That's what this is at the core.
So how did you find this work, Morten?
I was so happy that I crashed my life completely, and I started to do coaching in CTI, and I flied over and I went into the CTI coaching classes, and I went into a leadership program, and there they were, the soul typing people, as I called them at those days. And I met somebody who really presented something that I didn't need to believe in. I could have a physical experience of it. And since I have been investigating all kinds of different things through my life, indigenous people, I have been living in the nature for 4 years, meditating for 1,500 days. I have been sleeping in the Cheops pyramid alone. I have done all kinds of things to figure out what life is about. I realized that there is something inside of me that's the pure essence of who I am. From that day, I was sold. I wanted to learn this. And I started to fly over to California and I met the teachers and I met Paul. We had some summer retreats and it was beautiful. It was like for me, it was like going into a Harry Potter movie. With a lot of magical things happen. And I started to get in touch with myself and all my bullshit. It was the same thing. It mirrored who I was, and it also mirrored, the training mirrored all my stuff. So that was the beginning of it. Yeah. Yeah, so the beauty of this work is that I was able to realize the core essence of who I am and also all the bullshit of who I have been and still do some mistakes. And it's easier to clean up my stuff when I get back to my. It's like going back to your base camp in your body by doing the posture, by doing the meditation. We have in Norway here, we have training every morning at 6 o'clock, and it between 20 and 30 people who meets up in the morning, and we do all the training all year through, and people get in better and better and better. I will see not shape, but they get clearer about what they want and what they don't want, and who they are and who they want to spend time with.
So you mentioned the energies.
Yeah.
Is it something like people finding their authentic life energy? Also, they find what energizes them in terms of their work and their purpose?
Well, that happens. That definitely happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the energy that's in our bodies, Morten said it was like going to a Harry Potter school. It was, we discovered that there's magic in the body, that you can hold your body in different ways and become effortlessly strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can be
Mm-hmm.
like a tree, someone's pushing on you, and it's like, I'm just grounded. Are you really pushing?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that magic, and then we learned about, I just have one
Mm-hmm.
energy active in my body, and then we learned how to activate the others and experience life in a slightly different way and experience our bodies in a different way. And there's gifts that, each of us bring into the world because we have a certain life energy, and
Mm-hmm.
those, like all the sevens tend to want to optimize things and see possibilities. And all the threes tend to be charismatic to some degree and very focused and inspirational. And all the ones can bring a sense of awe and wonder just in the connection and in their sense of spirituality being here and now in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so each type has their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Martin and I, we were drawn to this in exactly the same way. I was in the leadership coaching program with Coaches Training Institute, CTI.
Mm-hmm.
And the soul typers came and was like, oh, I got to learn this.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of people who had that experience in this training who wanted to learn it. And so there were a lot of people there that we, learned with about this. And then, one by one, we left the training for
Mm-hmm.
various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And Morton developed his own process with this and learned a lot about himself and more about what they had taught us. He's built on that.
Mm-hmm.
And our friend Susan Fisher in Montana, she left and she built on it. And, together we understand this in a broader way than our teachers initially taught us.
So you mentioned three of the life energies and some of the traits of the one, the three, the sevens. What are some of the other traits?
Well, so nines, if
Mm-hmm.
I could just say something about nines have a very powerful presence.
Mm-hmm.
When they show up, it's like you can feel like something about that's a powerful person.
Mm-hmm.
And they might not be doing anything. I had an
Mm-hmm.
experience just being in a Target, and this young woman, maybe 18, 19 years old, all covered up in a very loose sweatshirt and sweatpants, hood on, and it's like, who's this person beside me? Like I could just feel the power.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched her walk away, and it's like, oh, she walks like a nine.
Mm-hmm.
There's like
Mm-hmm.
very, very powerful presence. And Their gift is that they're protective and they're inclusive of everyone.
Mm.
And they, in some way, they embody all the other eights, all the other 8 types.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have their own way of being, but they can identify with the others. Morten, you want to say more about this? About
I
nines?
think I want to say something about the experience because for those who are listening to this, if we go through it like we do now, Steve, it's beautiful. And if we bring in some of the qualities and some of the experience, I was together with a 9 on Friday. I didn't realize that she was a 9 before I met her. People coming up to me in the woods when I'm working with people with to help them to understand themselves, I spend a lot of time with them. So my identification process is more aligned with the nature. I have a natural process I'm going through because I've been studying the natural principles of creating a good atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
alignment, and so on. So I spent time
Mm-hmm.
with her, and I was together with her for 2-3 hours. Very powerful woman, very, very interesting experience. I had to lay down for 10 minutes. And after I drove her down in the valley so she can take the bus down to the city, I had to lay down and relax. And I had to call up Polo and ask him a couple of questions. So he just listened to me. Polo was just listening to me, what I was talking about. And that
Mm-hmm.
helped me to ground myself again because nines can, their presence can actually get your body into a state where you don't feel the ground. It's like
Mm-hmm.
everything is up in the air.
Their power elevates you.
Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
elevate. That's
Yeah.
beautiful said, Steve. They elevates you. I learned something new today. I always learn something new. They elevates you. I would like to use that later. They elevates you. So, and I wasn't sad. I wasn't worried. I was just in the space of not knowing, the space of just, okay, everything is up in the air.
So let me just pause for a second. Your internet is a little unstable. We
Okay.
get a
So,
lot of we get probably 80% of what you're saying. Well, no. So what I'd like you to do is recap it from time to time. In other words, because what I'll do is cut out the unstable part and capture. We're going to take a little longer because you'll need to restate some of what you said.
yeah.
And then maybe Paul could jump in and say, so what I heard you say, Morten, or
Yes.
what I've experienced, because his internet is stable.
Well, I could sum up what Morten said, and that was that
Yeah.
the
Why don't
woman,
you do that? Go ahead.
the woman's presence was so strong
Mm-hmm.
and her energy was so strong. He probably moved from his normal state of 3 into a 9 state. And when we move into a state of being that's not our natural energy, so he connects extremely well and he knows how to do 9. So here's
Mm-hmm.
this 9 in front of him, and he's moving into 9 in a very powerful way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he says he lives in, the people come and meet him in the woods, his home is on in the mountain in the woods, and he's
Mm-hmm.
off the grid.
Mm-hmm.
And so people, he has to go down and pick them up in the valley and bring them up to the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but so he experienced her power, and he didn't get back to his 3 right away.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so the 9s, like when you meet them and when we connect with them, their bodies are very loose and fluid and light, and they're not forceful at all in the connection. And it's almost like they're angelic beings, and they can float and when we experience, another energy in a profound way, it's it's disruptive. It's like, what
Mm-hmm.
happened to my reality? So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what Mark was talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
That's,
Morten,
yes.
so Morten, so the different life energies can have an impact on people. For example, the 9 that you're referencing, do they know they're having this impact on people?
Not very often, sometimes. And that's what we are teaching them to understand their true nature so they can be more
Mm.
trustful for themselves and more actually feel more safe in their own presence with other people. because they have, at the same time as they have this powerful being, which I call it the powerful life energy or the powerful soul that they have, they can see people react in a way, and people can get a little bit nervous or they can be a little bit distracted by it because they own their own presence, and then the feedback they get to themselves is disturbing themselves. It's like if you're a beautiful human being, Steve, and you are holding that one posture, as I see it through the screen now, and if I was looking at you in your eyes, which I hope I will do when I get over to USA, we will experience each other, but I will be drawn to your eyes and I will then see the beauty in your eyes, your oneness. And I allow myself to swim into that beautiful essence of who you are. And I'm okay to lose track of myself.
Okay, so as we think about some of the other energies we've mentioned 1, 3, 7, 9. What are some of the other things that people could display, right? What are some of the other energies? 2, 4.
Yeah. So if we go to 8, we were at 9. If we go to 9, 8, it's the opposite. If you are together with an 8, it's completely opposite. You will feel your body. You will feel your ground. You will feel stabilized. You will feel the chair you're sitting in if you allow yourself to be with that energy in the presence of them. And then you will feel completely different. You're grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually sit by them if I was sitting with an 8 for an hour, could start to feel if I'm hungry, if I'm thirsty, if I'm tired. If I allow myself to be with them, I will start to feel the needs of the body.
So that's a grounded state.
That's a grounded state. And if we continue with, Paulo's energy is a 7, it's amazing to be with him and other 7s because he helps us to see things in a different perspective. And he's a bullshit detector. He helps me not by bullshitting, but by just doing it in such a beautiful way that I can see how stupid I am sometimes.
He helps me with the same thing.
So,
He has the best questions at the most absolute perfect time that
Yes.
actually bring me back into my authentic space.
And he does something else which is even more beautiful. He helps and support me to bring out the best in me.
Yeah. 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 He wants people around him to win.
Yes.
And to find their authentic space. He's very good at that. Yeah. So then we covered 7, then what do we have? 6 now.
Yeah.
So 6s, our friend Susan is a 6.
Mm-hmm.
6s feel the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And like our friend John Brown, he's a 6. And it's like they sense things, they can hold court, they know how to like engage people in a story. They're very powerful in the way that they can pull things together and teach. And John, he's a professor, gifted teacher. When he's with us and he tells us a story, it's just like we're riveted.
Yeah.
Because he creates this energy that holds people's attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to say more about 6, Morten?
Yeah, I want to say that they are the heat in the fire. They are the love. They are the heart. They are the warm, heated, beloved heart that when they choose to come from their love, they are so helpful to move things forward. That driving force that they have inside of them, it's like a pumping heart.
And I see that in John.
Yeah.
Our mutual friend. Yeah. In
The
fact,
one
when he
thing
first told one of his stories, when I first met him, what came to me was, John, you have a book.
Right.
And it just came to me because it's like I heard a chapter or two just come out of him. And all he had to do was write it down the way he told it. And there it was, the beginning of a book. And so, yeah, it was fascinating to feel that energy.
And he wrote that book.
Then he wrote that book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
That's
all
what
encouraged him. Yeah.
what you talk about now, Steve, is so true, because that's what they are all about, is to speak the truth in the moment from the heart.
Yeah.
When they do that, it's everybody wants to hear it, everybody wants to
Yeah.
feel it, everybody wants to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I
then
just
we
want
have
to
the
go back to-
fives. Go
But
ahead.
before
Go
we
ahead,
go to
Paul.
five, I want to
Yep.
say something about threes and
Mhm.
Morten.
Mhm.
Morten has, as a three, has this capacity to connect with people, and this is true for threes. If they look you in the eyes for like 7 seconds, they know things about you,
Mhm.
about what moves you, about sentiments. They know things they shouldn't know, but just by looking at you, they know.
Mm.
There was a client I had who has the same energy. Attorneys would hire her to interview jurors. They'd say, just ask people these questions and see are they going to be in our favor or not. And she'd talk to them for 30 seconds or 2 minutes, and she'd say, this one's good, this one's no good. And she would just know.
She would know whether they were good or no good. Wow.
Good for their side of the
Yeah, for their
case.
side. Yeah,
Right.
for the case as jurors. Yeah.
She would
Yeah.
understand. So threes have this ability, and Morten uses this to connect with people, but not to know things other than just to know how to bring your essence and your authentic self forward.
Mhm.
So his capacity is to invite people, and he can invite people who have been shut down and closed off and hospitalized, and he connects with them one time, and like some young women, their parents will call up and say, our daughter was at this workshop with you and one day, and now we don't recognize who she is because she's out of her room and she's out of bed and she's doing things. So he knows how to
So
ignite that authentic self.
if someone's completely closed down, a three can make a connection with them and see who they truly are, and it helps them bring that forward.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Morten's gifted in that.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead.
And we love it. We just love to see that beauty deep inside of somebody and ignite that fire, so the soul is activated again and will heal the body. So it's the opposite process, healing the body first and the mind and the heart, but it's getting that soul energy, that life energy, to be turned on, so that can burn off the bullshit that's, or whatever had happened, or abuse, or whatever had happened. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So now we have the five, I believe. We covered the six?
Yeah.
Okay. So the five.
Let me talk about my son. He's a 5. And he is 23 years old, and I'm allowed to use him as an example because he wrote the first chapter in my both books. My first book, I have written 3 books, but my third book was about about the 9 life energies, and he wrote about it and how he used his understanding to talk about the big picture and put me into the big picture in the first chapter in the book is just amazing. It's probably the best chapter in the whole book, and it's not because he's my son, but he's a 5. The way he does it is to get information and not only take out the essence of it, but bring it together in a way that's understandable for people.
So five can take big concepts and make it very understandable, break it down.
Very understandable, and break it down, and also talk about it without judging anybody. And also you have the feeling of, there is an empathic feeling of the words you get from them.
It sounds like you're describing big picture thinkers as well.
They are
Yes.
big picture thinkers,
Okay.
definitely. They pull a lot of information together and then they generate understanding and clarity when they tell you about it.
So they can disseminate it and a 6-year-old can understand it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll
Well,
bring
maybe a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
they can bring so much information together,
Mm-hmm.
and when they disseminate it, they might need another 5 to make it clear.
Okay. Okay.
So, and it depends on their gift.
Mm-hmm.
So like there was someone that identified that the ancient Egyptians probably had the understanding of the 9.
Mm-hmm.
His name was R.A. Schwala and his writing, he brings so much together. He studied this temple for 14 years, and the relationship of these figures over here on this wall to this on this wall, and he understood and brought it all together. But when you read his stuff, it's like, this is so dense. What's he saying? And then there's other 5 um, who wrote the Serpent in the Sky,
John Anthony West. Yes.
on Anthony West, and he was able to condense this down and say, this is what Schwala was talking about.
Wow. And they're both 5s. Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to leave people with a teaser. So we're going to go away from describing the rest of the energies because I'm going to ask you some other questions.
Go right ahead.
Why would people want to take on this?
I have one thing first of all. You really need to know the essence, the core essence of who you are, because then you have a compass so you can go out into the world and create the map based on where you know who you are, and you will understand what your purpose is, because the essence of who you are will shine through. If
And you'll understand you'll understand your
your
direction better,
direction, your
your purpose
purpose.
in life.
Yes.
Okay.
So back when you and I were in our 20s, there was this common phrase, now we're talking about the 70s and 80s, that people would find themselves. They would go off and do something to find themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This is a way to know who you are and to find yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
are we're raised by families and cultures and school systems, and a lot of times the families want to define who we are. Parents want a child to be a particular way. One parent might want you to be the same profession they are. And in some families, that's kind of forceful. And so people, they want to please their parents, or they want to please their professors or their teachers. And they go off in a direction that someone says is a good direction for you. And it's not. I mean, I had a
Mm-hmm.
personally, I had a high school advisor who told me, become a chemistry major when you go to college. It's like, that was the worst path for me. And I was. I like science, but I don't like that kind of science.
Hmm.
And then I had an advisor in college who like really understood me and pointed
Mm-hmm.
me in the direction of studying psychology and what
Mm-hmm.
motivates people. And it was just like, oh, I loved it. It was like I changed majors and it was amazing. But this system helps people find their gifts instantly. We identify who you are. These are your gifts, and then it makes sense to you.
Well, and you brought up something else. So you met someone who somehow recognized the path that was more for you
Yeah.
than the one you were on. Is that something that happens as a result of maybe there's more synchronicity because you're now on understanding your own energy and how it contributes to the world? Does that recognize it, but still synchronicities occur to move you in the right direction?
What? And this. Go ahead, Morten.
I get very engaged in this because we need the diversity. We actually learn from diversity.
Mm,
If we were all the same, we will not have been learning the same things. I need to learn from you, Steve, about being humble and gentle and nice, and I need to learn from Paulo to see things in a different perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
people needs my energy. So when I know who I am, I can give it to the world. So I can go
Mm-hmm.
into unknown. For example, I went to a pilgrim travel through Spain and France for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just being unsecure and wondering what's going on, I was using my gift through my eye contact and smile to connect with people. And I learned so much because I helped them to shine and they shined back.
Mm.
And then they give
And they might
information.
not even know their soul type.
They don't need to know
They don't
that,
know
but
their life energy. Right.
they don't know their life energy. But it will bring out the diversity because we accept each other in a much greater way.
Mm. So what are some of the ways that you've seen people impacted, and how has it benefited their life once they've understood their energies?
Well, I'm teaching a transformation program, and the reason why I'm teaching a transformation program is that I understood very early that we didn't have a method to transform
You
people through.
understood?
There wasn't a method. There wasn't a transformation method where we can use these energies. It was all about learning about them and learn how to do the
Got it.
identification.
Okay.
So when I spend time in the nature, which I still do, I learn the natural way. And the natural way of the growth process in the nature is the same as through the 9 life energies. It's the exact same thing. So the numbers through the body has the same energy, that atmosphere in the nature, affinity in the nature, birth in the nature, and so on. So all this energy. And the reason why is because if you start to study this work, in the old Egypt, they had something called nectar, and it wasn't God, it was the force of nature. And you have that force of
Mm-hmm.
nature, and when you awaken it in a certain step by step process, you will transform. And we see
Mm-hmm.
now with people, I have young people, especially. I love to work with everybody, but I get so happy when I have a 20 years old kid, who I call them kids, who get help to get out and start to work, to be with friends, to get out of the room, to be happy, start to eat again, put their cell phones away, and start to live.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think is a reason for people to do this? What would compel someone, or what have you noticed when you're signing people up? Like, what do they say, right? What's the reason people would want to do this work based on what you've seen?
Everybody wants to live a more fulfilled life.
More fulfilled life. Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
wants to have
And they,
something more.
yeah.
And they want to understand other people.
Uh,
And this, it's like you can understand yourself, and then you can understand why everybody in your family is different than you.
yeah.
And it's not like there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with them. It's just like there's 9 different types. And in a family that's intact, everybody's going to be a different number until there's 10 people,
Yeah.
And
which
and
Yeah.
and even if we want or know or not, we, to a certain level, we put some trauma on each other because we don't understand each other. So, for example, I grew up with parents who didn't use eye contact in the same way as I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I really didn't understand their message from time to time, and I get angry of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Today, it's easier for me to understand that my son doesn't need what I needed. He needs something,
Mm-hmm.
and I can help him with that so he can understand himself. And our relationship is extremely good because he has a possibility to get help to understand him from his perspective, not from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
right, right.
So there were 7 children. I was number 6. My twin brother, 4 minutes later, was number 7. So with our parents, we were 9. So we didn't quite make 10.
Right. Everybody was different.
And that was very true. That was very true. My oldest brother, I didn't meet him until I was 10. That would make him 29 when I met him for the first time.
Wow.
And that gap extended until throughout the seven of us. And the closest one to my twin brother and I was 6 years older, David. And yes, as I think about David, then there was a gap of 8 years to Bob, and then 2 years to Frank, and then 1 year to Lorraine, and 1 year to Seb, which spanned 20 years.
Yes.
And so it was fascinating to interact with everyone and see how different they were. And of course, most of them, by the time I was 15, they were all out of the household. Matter of fact, Seb, like I said, I didn't meet him. Bob, I didn't meet him until he was, I was 10 or 11. It's funny, the same year that I met Seb, I met Bob, which made him 24 when I met him. So, yeah, as I think back to all of them, they were so different, so different. All right. So then, how do people find you? What are some of the events you're running? What are some things that people can jump into? Let's talk about that.
Well, in Massachusetts, in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, Morton's going to be here, and we're doing 5 different days of events, identification, discussion, teaching about the nine. It's going to happen in the Cumming Center in Beverly. And maybe we can tag a PDF file with this so that people can look at it. Morton's organization is Nine Life Energies. It's ninelifeenergies.com, and it's the number 9.
Number 9?
Number 9 Life Energies. And there's lots.
Lifeenergies.com.
Correct. And there's lots
with
of
the number 9.
It's number 9. And there's some information even on my website, paulscoglio.com. There's a drop-down menu, but there's something about the 9 energies, and there's a couple pages.
And how do you spell Scoglio?
Scoglio, just the way it shows up under my face here on the page.
Some people will only listen to the audio. That's why I have people do that.
That's great.
Yeah, some people only listen to the audio.
Yes.
So yeah, it's Paul. I hope they know how to spell Paul. Paul Scoglio, Scoglio.com. And 9 with a 9, 9lifeenergies.com to learn more about the programs. And then the both of you will be in Massachusetts together.
Yes.
And what dates?
Well, we're going to see you at our regular
on the 11th.
Yeah, on the 11th, Morten's going to join us for our accountability meeting.
Yeah.
And,
wow. Yay. I get to meet Morten in person. Yes, I'm
and
grateful.
Then on Friday the 14th, in the evening, we're doing the beginning of a weekend series. It's going to have 5 segments, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. People can join us for all 5 or just part of it. And then on Wednesday the 19th and Thursday the 20th of March, we're doing evening events again in the Cumming Center.
19th and 20th, yeah.
And there may be something else that we do as well.
And Steve, when I have the opportunity, every second year since 14 years ago, I have done, and I do this together with Paulo now, we're doing an international retreat. Yes. And this time we go to Piemonte from the 3rd to the 10th of May. And that's an alchemy process retreat where we are.
And where is that? Where is that city?
Piedmont, Italy. It's just outside of Milan.
It's between Italy. Yes.
It's between Milan and Turin. And I have to tell you, I've been to a few of Morten's retreats, international retreats, and they are amazing. Very quickly, a group of people will feel like friends and family. It's like the community development process is so fast. And, we practice, we teach about the 9. The food is always amazing. And the last place we were, we had to tell the organization that was housing us, the hotel, that serve us less food because it was too good and we were eating too much.
Yeah.
And that's on the 9lifeenergies.com website.
that is
The Italy retreat.
yes.
Something to check out, folks.
Yeah, that's something to
Yeah.
check out. And we are already now, we are 36 people signing up from all over the world. We have two persons
Wow.
coming from California. We have one from Boston, Montana. We have people from all over the world coming into these retreats to share their wisdom based on their life energy. So, yes, we are facilitating it. But if you, Steve, came over, we will learn a lot from your oneness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're hoping to have 40 people. Is that the limit, Morten? Could you have more than 40?
I mean, have at least 40, and that's a reason why. Because I've been studying David Bohm and all this understanding of group dynamics, and when you get to a certain number, the the groups change and the learning change. So if you have 40 people, you will have the opportunity to have at least 3 or 4 of each of the energies, and that will lift the whole experience to another level.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Well, I know in my own experience, it's fascinating work. I'm grateful that I met Paul, and that he helped me identify my life energy. I remember when it was for sure he pushed on me, and he could not move me. He could not move me. There was nothing he could do to move me. And I knew from the way he was doing the exercise that was my life energy. And it led to a lot of discoveries for me, including energizing me to do the work that really was meant for me to begin with. Life whacked me with a 2x4 to get me to do my own work, because it led me to 6 months out of work and 100 days in the hospital. Actually, the 100 days occurred first, 60 days straight, then 40 days. And there were synchronicities that happened the year before or the summer before that were all little clues to what I was meant to do. And I'm not sure exactly when we did the energies. That was included in it. And it led me to a complete, I like to show the acorn on my, not just on my logo. I own the trademark for that, the acorn brain. But this had to get crushed open and broken open and smashed into the ground to become an oak tree, right? If that's ever going to be an oak tree, I'll release it later this year. Hopefully it'll become one. That's the same for me in my life, right? I had really to get a whole new understanding of my energy and who I was, and this work actually helped enable me to get onto this path. And now I've been doing it for over 22 years.
That's
And
amazing.
I'm grateful for all the people I've met. In fact, Paul and I did a book called "Wake Up, Jump Into Your Life," and he wrote all the exercises and asked people questions for journaling. I wrote it based on my experience at the time. It's probably due for an update.
Yeah.
Wake up, jump into your life, find your life energy.
I just want to put in something. Since we have been working with this for 20 years now, we know more than we did in the beginning. So we know the markers in the body, the facial expressions, how you use your eyes, how many seconds you would like to hold the eye contact, how you're holding your posture, energy signature. Is very helpful for us today to understand the work and give it to other people or teach other people in an easier way that we did in the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm a testimonial, right?
Your testimonial.
I'm not just a testimonial for the Hair Club for Men. I'm a client. Oh, no, I'm not. No, I am a testimonial for the 9 Life Energies. And you can find more information about it at 9lifeenergies.com, or Paul Scoglio, Scoglio.com. And I can tell you that this work was influential for me stepping out on the path that I'm on 23 years ago. And it started like 23 years ago. There were little inklings of little nudges from the universe. And then everything fell into place and got further developed as I met Paul and we did this work. And so now Paul is with Morten, and I'm not surprised. And that their work combined, they're helping each other take it even further and developing it even further. And I can tell you, it's worth it. Investigate it. Go to one of their events. If you can get to Italy, go to Italy. If you can come to Beverly, Mass, come to Beverly, Mass. You'll be amazed. Let me put it that way. I like the positive. You will be amazed.
You will be amazed.
And you get to prove it to yourself. That's something that I say to everyone. Never follow what I say blindly or anyone says blindly. In fact, I tell all my clients, if I ever tell you I found the way, run away. And then call me back in 2 weeks or a month and see if I've regained my sanity. Because we all have a journey, and that's what this is about. We can learn from the 9 energies, life energies, to appreciate each other's journey. That my journey is none of anyone else's business, and everyone else's journey is none of my business. And go back 30, 40 years ago, I used to think it was, right? That I wanted everybody to get my way. And what a waste of energy, talking about 9 life energies. What a waste of energy. And if you can come to a place where you appreciate all the differences in this world, and Morten and Paul are helping people do that in a very authentic way. And I can speak for Paul, and I've heard so much about Morten. I know that that's what you'll find if you experience their work. And so if there's a little nudge of curiosity in you, follow up with them. Yes. Now, anything you'd like to say in closing? Leave people with a thought.
Okay, you first, Paulo.
Well, I appreciate everything that Steve has said, and I appreciate that. It was probably 2003, maybe 2004, that we identified you on my porch.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I would just encourage people to explore the possibilities with us. And certain people, this will make people curious and they'll want to be involved. If it's the right time, then you'll do it. If it's not the right time, then you won't. And people have to want something. There has to be some kind of desire to make their life better, to improve, to transform, to be more authentic.
There has to be some kind of a desire. You broke up a little bit more. You broke up a little bit there. There has to be some kind of a desire to want to transform, to be more authentic, is what I heard you say.
Yeah, I would like to say
and
something.
Morten.
Yeah,
Sure.
I would like to say something. If you can't attend, if you can't travel, go into our webpage, or if you can't even do that, start with yourself. Take a deep breath, light up yourself, go into the mirror and start to study yourself and how beautiful you are, so you get in touch with your soul.
I love that.
Very nice.
That's a great message to end on. Now, so I'm going to remind everyone, 9, the number 9, lifeenergies.com, or Paul Scoglio, Scoglio.com will give you options, and investigate this. Investigate this. You will not regret a moment of it. And I can tell you that from my own experience. So, and I am not paid to say this. There'll be some skeptics out there. All right. So thank you so much. I'm grateful to have both of you, Morten Nygård and Paul Scoglio, as my guests. Again, check this out. This work, 9lifeenergies.com with a 9, or go to Paul Scoglio, Paul, Scoglio. I know he'll take a phone call, paulscoglio.com, and he'll talk to you about it. Follow your heart with this. That's what I can tell you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.